because I'm a guitar player. We got this development deal with Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers had me in the studio with pro players, pro producers, and it just sounded terrible. A karaoke singer. So we tried different producers.
Keith Urban's life always looked like a dream from the outside. The golden hair, the charming smile, the stadiums roaring his name, the Hollywood wife, the awards that stacked higher than most artists could imagine. But behind the glimmer and applause lived a man who spent decades quietly bleeding. A man who grew up learning to survive long before he learned to sing. A man the world celebrated while never truly knowing the fires he walked through. And tonight, you're going to hear the story he never told the spotlight. Because Keith Urban wasn't shaped by fame. He was shaped by fear, by loss, by a father's silence, by the taste of addiction, and by the brutal truth that even legends can crumble when no one is watching. This is not a tribute. This is the truth. Keith Lionel Urban entered the world on October 26, 1967, in a small New Zealand town most Americans couldn't point to on a map. His earliest memories weren't of guitars or melodies. They were of boxes, moving trucks, and a family constantly searching for a place where life didn't hurt. But pain found them anyway. When Keith was just 9 years old, his entire world went up in flames. Literally. One night, a fire swallowed their home whole. His childhood toys, his clothes, the little family photos that proved they existed, all gone. The Urbans were left standing on the street with nothing but smoke in their lungs and the clothes stuck to their skin. Neighbors brought boxes of clothes. Strangers offered blankets. But the real fire, the one that mattered, was inside the house long before the flames ever touched the walls. Keith's father, Robert Bob Urban, was a man built from contradictions. He loved country music so much it pulsed through the home, but he loved alcohol even more. And alcohol has a way of turning love into violence. Keith would later admit something no child should ever have to say. I don't remember him ever telling me he loved me. Imagine that. Millions of fans cheering your name, but your own father didn't give you the 3 words every child deserves. And when words didn't come, fists did. His home wasn't a sanctuary. It was a storm. A boy walking on eggshells, trying to read the temperature in the room before daring to breathe. The guitar became his escape, not his hobby. It was the one voice he had when fear stole the rest. By age 6, the guitar wasn't just an instrument. It was armor. Most kids dream of being rock stars. Keith Urban never had that luxury. He played because he needed to. Because his house was unpredictable. Because music was the only place the world didn't hurt. At 8 years old, Keith was already performing in smoke-filled pubs, places no child belongs. Tiny hands on a guitar bigger than his torso, singing his heart out for drunks who barely noticed him. People called him a prodigy, but prodigies don't usually come from broken hearts. His teenage years were spent hauling amplifiers in the back of his parents' old car, traveling from one dusty stage to another, while the world around him kept reminding him he wasn't enough. Early TV appearances, local awards, even winning the Golden Guitar, none of it filled the hole left by those years of fear. He said it best himself. Music gave me somewhere to go when home didn't feel like home. And that sentence tells you everything. He wasn't chasing applause. He was running from pain. By 1992, Keith had something most people lose by 30. Pure, reckless courage. He packed his bags, left his country, and he landed in Nashville, with no money, no plan B, and no connections. The industry didn't welcome him. It ignored him. Doors didn't just close, they slammed. Record labels brushed him aside. Bars let him play, but for pennies. He played backup guitar for artists who didn't learn his name. He wrote songs others got credit for. He swallowed pride until it tasted like dust. His band, The Ranch, tried to break through. It didn't. And when you're young and broke in a foreign country with no one to lean on, the ghosts of your childhood come back. Keith knew those ghosts well, and they whispered the same lie over and over. You'll never be enough. But he didn't quit, because pain had carved him into someone who refused to fall without a fight. When Keith Urban became a star, he didn't float, he crashed upward. Somebody Like You became the biggest country hit of the entire decade. Albums went platinum, tours sold out, awards stacked high. And yet, every spotlight made his shadows grow longer. The applause didn't silence the childhood trauma. The awards didn't heal the cracks in his soul. And the loneliness of fame can swallow you faster than failure ever could. So he reached for the one thing that had always numbed the pain in his home growing up: the bottle. Keith Urban, the hero on stage, the virtuoso with lightning in his fingers, fell into the same darkness he watched destroy his father. Addiction tightened its grip. The man loved by millions couldn't stand the man he was in private. Behind closed doors, he spiraled. And his marriage, the one everyone envied, was about to collapse. People remember the wedding, the glamour, the candlelit ceremony, the Hollywood fairy tale. But the real story, the story that matters, is far darker. Just 4 months into their marriage, Keith relapsed. Hard. Nicole didn't run. She didn't scream. She didn't give up. She called friends. She called specialists. She staged an intervention. Not out of anger, but out of love. She looked him in the eyes and said what no one had ever said to him growing up. I'm not letting you destroy yourself. He checked into the Betty Ford Clinic, this time not as a celebrity, but as a broken man who finally believed he was worth saving. Keith would later say, I didn't start living until I married her. And he meant every word. This wasn't Hollywood romance. This was rescue. This was rebirth. Keith Urban today is not the same man who grew up in that house of fear. He's not the boy watching flames consume everything he owned. He's not the young musician drowning in self-doubt. And he's not the superstar hiding addiction behind applause. He rebuilt himself with help, with honesty, with brutal self-confrontation. He found peace in quiet mornings with his daughters, healing in the hands of a woman who refused to abandon him, clarity in a life without alcohol, strength in a past that no longer owns him. He lives in mansions now, Nashville, Sydney, New York. But none of those homes matter as much as the one he built inside himself. The home he was denied in childhood. The one he now protects fiercely. For his daughters, for his wife, for the man he finally learned to become. Most people see Keith Urban and think, lucky, blessed, golden boy, perfect life. But legends aren't born from comfort. They're forged from fire. Behind the smile is a childhood scarred by violence. Behind the fame is an addiction he nearly didn't survive. Behind the marriage is a woman who fought for his life when he couldn't. And behind every song he plays is a man who has lived every note with blood, fear, and courage. If his story moved you, If it reminded you that even heroes break, then don't leave silently. Honor the man who turned suffering into sound. Hit like, subscribe, and let his story reach someone who needs to hear it. Because Keith Urban isn't just a musician. He's proof that even the darkest past can pave the road to redemption.